Another episode of the State Sub Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Freeman, and this week we're talking nothing but Texas State volleyball as the Bobcats are going to the NCAA Tournament for a second straight year after sweeping their way through the Sun Belt Conference Tournament in Foley, Alabama, winning a conference championship, the second tournament title for Sean Huiet, and the program's first since 2020. Speaking of Sean Huiet, he is our guest in the podcast this week, and I'm sure is a little bit happier that the podcast this time does not involve hot wings. Sean, how are you?
That is a fact. No, I'm doing great, Brant. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. And Sean, I just laid it all out there. Again, a tremendous run through Foley, Alabama for you. You swept James Madison, Appalachian State, Arkansas State in the finals. You've won 11 in a row. This team is rolling right now. What has made this run so special?
Yeah, it's been fun. I think this season we knew we could be pretty good. I thought we knew we had something pretty special. I think early on we talked a lot about how good we could be. And we don't like to make excuses, but that travel schedule, because of everything we had to go through at the beginning of the season, there just became a point in around October where we felt like almost like you feel at the end of a season where you still want to keep going, but the mental side of it gets to be tough. And we just sat and chatted, and we knew we had big goals. We knew we could win the Sun Belt. And so we talked a lot about their motto this year was culture over everything. And we talked a lot about the culture here at Texas State is we're known for playing our best volleyball in November, December. We're known for making a run here at the end of the season. And I think this team really took that to heart. Again, we didn't lose a match the whole month of November, let alone I think we only lost 3 sets in November. And so I'm just really proud of how this group, their midseason regrouped a little bit. We didn't let a couple losses frustrate us. They regrouped and knew that we could still reach our goal of getting the NCAA tournament.
Was there any particular turning point? I mean, at what point in time did it all kind of come together for this team?
I think after we lost to Arkansas State here. That's the first time we had lost to them in a little bit. It used to be a big rivalry back in the day with us. And then we hadn't lost to them in a while. They came here at home. We thought we had a really good shot at being undefeated at home this year. They beat us. They celebrated like they won the championship right there on our court. And so we had a long talk after that match about regrouping and where we are and what our goals were. Samantha Wunsch stayed in my office and talked about some things and took on a bigger leadership role. I think you saw Ortega and Ryan realize like, hey, this is where we're at. These losses don't have to define us, but we've got to learn from it and get ready to make this run. And even at that point, the regular season was still up for grabs. It just was, we weren't controlling it as much. And that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to control as much as we could. And so again, I thought they put their hard hat. This team has been locked in. It's been so fun as a coach. Like we just get to kind of plan some things and do some things. We don't have to be on them a ton right now. They are so locked in. And I think you kind of see that with their play right now.
We can see the hardware behind you, by the way, that Sun Belt Conference Championship trophy. Yeah, there it is. Mm-hmm. Not the only hardware you brought back from Foley, Alabama. You referenced Ryan Torres, named as the most outstanding player of the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, your setter. How big has their impact been over the last 6 weeks or so?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I've talked a lot about her and even Ortega, what they're doing, the way they're leading. The fun thing about it is they're 2 kids that love volleyball. They just love to play, and they're leading and they're doing things because they don't want their season to be over. They want to keep playing. And so it's been fun to watch them kind of take the reins and, they're doing it their way, which is so cool. Again, they have the team locked in. They get on them when they need to, so the coaches don't have to. They remind them what's at stake, when we were getting ready for the tournament. I mean, those were some of the most locked in practices we've had since we've been here because they were on a mission to win that thing.
Your top 2 outside hitters, one of them you referenced earlier, Samantha Wunsch, MJ McCurdy, the freshman for you as well. How much confidence are they playing with at this stage of the year?
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw last weekend those two led us a lot. And again, it was one of those, Sam is always going to be Sam. She's so competitive and always wants to be the best. And then MJ started off real strong and then had kind of a lull there and then kind of just developed into that full rotation. But we talked a lot to her because we thought she had a chance to be freshman of the year. She did not get that. And then we're like, hey, this weekend you go out there and prove to these people that you were the freshman of the year, that you can do this. And she took that to heart a little bit. We saw a little bit. I think that was the first weekend I've seen. She's pretty steady Eddie and pretty stoic in her reactions and stuff. And you saw her get fired up a couple times and kind of put the team on her back and say, let's go, we're doing this. And so that was fun to see her go to that level.
So that's kind of talking about your outsides and your offense. Defensively, you mentioned Alyssa Ortega earlier, but looking at the play of your middles, Bailey Hanner, Jed DeFree, how much production have you been getting from your defense over the last few weeks or so?
Yeah, honestly, I think Bailey Hanner is the unsung hero of this team. She's not getting the accolades that we think she deserves. She's an all-conference middle. She's a workhorse for us. She's in that M1 spot. She does so much, both offensively, defensively. She serves. I think she is kind of the glue. I think she does a lot for us and doesn't get the recognition, which again, that is what it is, but she's so important to this team. And so I'm really proud of what she's done this season. And then Jade, I think last year we saw how defensive she could be, and she got Defensive Player of the Year. This year she worked really hard with Ryan and Carly and our setters to work the connection because we knew she could be offensive too. So you've kind of seen her kind of develop into more full both offense and defense, which has been good for us because we need our middles to be offensive as well as defensive.
Something you brought up earlier, the travel schedule. You played 30 matches this season. Your record 22-8. Of those 30, only 8 of them were at home, which means you're on the road or at a neutral site for 22 other matches this season. It has to be some sort of record. Yeah. So you've spent a lot of time on buses, airplanes, hotels. What has this team done to bond with one another, given all these opportunities they've had to do so?
Yeah, again, that has been part of the good of the travel is we get to spend a lot of time together. The Hawaii trip was awesome, 8 days in Hawaii and getting to, the new people to get to spend more time with the upperclassmen and learn how everyone ticks. And the bus rides are always where, wins or losses, it's always the bus rides they remember, the games they play, the things they do. And so I think that has really kind of got this group more bonded, if you will. And then it's crazy because on top of all that, you also get to a point with all the travel where it does become mental. Like you're not sleeping in your bed. I said all season, this is nothing to do physical. When we went through that little lull and we weren't, at our best, it was all a mental thing. We had been on the road. I think we slept in our bed 5 or 6 nights the whole month of September. And that's a mental toll on top of academics, on top of all the other stuff. I mean, we demand a lot out of our kids. And so that is a mental toll on them. And so I think that, but we kept saying it. They kept reminding each other, like, this is going to pay off in the end. We have to win the conference tournament on a neutral site. We're going to be sent somewhere for the NCAA tournament. We're going to have to win a neutral or on someone's home court. So we're going to be away. And so I think you're starting to see that pay off a little bit here at the end.
Well, did I hear that one of those bonding exercises in Foley was something about the Taylor Swift friendship bracelets? Is that something that happened with this team?
They did. Some of them did. I don't know how many went, but they did have a Taylor Swift night at the conference tournament. I had to send a message to remind them. It was the late match that night. So, but I do think some of them came over and made some friendship bracelets.
Well, I think that's one way to bond with one another for sure.
Yeah.
I mentioned this is your second tournament championship. The other one came your first season during the pandemic of 2020. I know the circumstances vastly different this time around, but how does the championship run this year compare to the one that you had 4 years ago?
Yeah, this one, gosh, they're all awesome, obviously. And we just with Keith and my staff who are the most amazing people and keep me sane daily and put in a lot of the work. It's so hard to win championships, no matter how good you are, no matter how talented your team is. It's hard, 3 days in a row. I honestly thought maybe that JMU match was going to be one of our hardest because we had just played them the weekend before. But this one was just a huge sigh of relief because I knew we could do it and I felt really good. I felt like the team was in a really good place, but it was their ability to show up there and just turn it on. Like we have been playing. you just keep seeing us getting better and better. And I hope that goes into this weekend, because the level that we got to in Foley was, as a coach, again, I was just sitting there like, y'all are making my job pretty easy. You're making me look really good. And it's kudos to my staff and this team, the work they put in and what they did. But this one was pretty special.
This program has been to the NCAA tournament so many times. You've been there before as the head coach and an assistant. Karen Chisholm guided this team to the tournament a bunch of times, and it feels like every time the tournament, every time the team reached the tournament, they are being sent to Austin to go play in the Austin Regional hosted by Texas. This time the draw was different. You get drawn to Dallas. How did you feel about the draw to the SMU Regional?
Very excited. Again, I always say it's the one thing about Austin is nice is that we're close to home, right? And not that Dallas is that much farther, but we usually draw a really good crowd. It just sometimes doesn't always feel like the NCAA tournament. It's 20 minutes up the road. The hotels we stay at sometimes are closer to San Marcos than they are in Austin. And so I just think this is going to feel more like the NCAA tournament for this group. It's, I get volleyball is more regionalized, and until that changes, if someone in Texas is hosting, we're more than likely going there. But I think the committee saw that, our resume and what we've done this season gave us an opportunity to go up, again, play a good Missouri team, be in a regional, which, yes, the teams there are very good, but it's not the traditional Texas, Penn State, things like that. And so this team is really, really fired up for that. On top of it, it feels different because we're not just going up the road again. We get a little bit more of a trip out of it. So.
You mentioned Missouri. What can you tell us about the Tigers out of the SEC and the matchup?
Yeah, they're very good. Again, their setter we've known for a long time. She played club with Sam and Olivia, and she's a local kid from Austin. She went to Texas for 2 years and then transferred to Missouri. She's just a fun, good kid, and she's running a really good offense. They have a lefty very similar to Sam. She plays full rotation, and they set her a lot of balls, and then they have a very terminal outside. So they did some really good things in the SEC this year. They had the Libero of the Year, Newcomer of the Year. And so they're very good, very good, but also very beatable. I think our serve, the way we've been serving and blocking, it's been at a really high level. And so I think Keith and Carly are getting a good game plan together and ready to go. But we're going to have to attack them with our serve. Their middles are good when they can set them, but out of system, I think they rely heavily on those pins. So I think if we can keep our serve and block going, we're going to give ourselves a good chance.
Again, you've been to the tournament so many times before, and you have won a first-round match before as well. Going back to 2020, you did so then as well. But you've had a goal since you took over as head coach to become a Sweet 16 program. What will it take for this year's team to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, I think just kind of like I've said, this team has been locked in. They want to do the same thing. They don't feel pressure. They don't feel like, it's Missouri or it's Texas or this. It's just the next game to them. And I think that's a really good sign. I think this team believes that they're good, but they also know they have to work hard to get it. And so we just keep chipping away year in and year out, building a schedule, get us ready. I think you've seen our block and our defense really come alive. And I think for the next level, that's where it is. The blocking, the defense, and the serving are things that can start to separate you and get you up there. And so we just got to go in this weekend with our hard hats on, ready to work, and we're going to go after them.
How significant is it for you, Coach, to follow up last year's at-large bid to come back this season and win a tournament championship with essentially the same group of players? What does that tell you about the consistency that you've built within the program?
Yeah, again, it feels good. Again, I give kudos to my staff and all the hard work they're doing. This team, they bought into our system and what we're doing. And so it's funny you say that, because there was a point, I think it was after our Arkansas State match, when you asked, Sam stayed after and talked a little bit. She's like, basically, we returned everyone. Like, why are we struggling here? Why can't we get there? That loss kind of hurt a little bit. And it was, but the role that KJ and even like a Sophie, the leadership that they had the year before, we were missing a little of that. I think that loss kind of opened our eyes to that, and kind of the people like Ryan and Ortega and Sam, like, hey, like, yes, we're really good, but there's also some other pieces that we're missing, and that leadership piece of getting everyone to come together and kind of go for the same goal was kind of missing, because KJ did a really good job of that. That was awesome. And so I think that's when you started to see the team kind of not just develop the volleyball side, but the mental side, the leadership side, which has really been helpful for our team.
I have to imagine the vibe of the locker room was a really positive one right now, isn't it?
It feels good. Yes. Again, it's like I said, it's knock on wood, this team is locked in. They're so fired up. And I feel like I've said locked in a million times, but that's the best way to describe them. Like they come in, they do what we want to do. Like we took a couple of days off for Thanksgiving, which obviously we needed to rest our bodies in that. And sometimes that first practice back, you're like, oh, but man, it was a great practice. Whatever we throw at them, they're ready to go at it. And so I think this team is ready.
Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck against Missouri and the upcoming Dallas Regional as well. Congratulations on the hardware you got there in the office. And thanks again for joining us.
Appreciate you, Brian. Thanks for all you do.
All right, appreciate you. Well, that's going to wrap up the States Up podcast. Again, Texas State, the 2024 Sun Belt Conference Tournament champions, on their way to the NCAA Tournament for a second straight year. They open up the Dallas Regional Thursday against the Missouri Tigers out of the SEC. For Coach Huiet, I'm Brad Freeman, as always, reminding you to keep those States up, and we'll see you next time.
Eat 'em up.